Well, hopefully we don't crash again. I think it's time for a new PC. Unfortunately. Boo? What, boo? Why are you booing me like that? Now you can't see my Santa Claus hat. Might as well take it off. But I'm going to just stream with no camera and see if that helps it. Just saying, Arlene, Revoyer, the crew's all here. You're trying again, might as well, right? If first you don't succeed, try again. It's really unfortunate that it happened. First of all, let's actually turn on this roller coaster. Let's get that thing going. This ride going. There we go. Now we have people that actually want to spend money. And we already had one of these drop things down here. How many other rides did we have that I didn't know about? That's it. Okay. Look at this. Like, everything works smoothly. It's just, for some reason, it does not want to move the screen over when I push down the directions. Where's the option? That's not the options. Oh well. Here we go, maybe. Options. Game options. Here we go. Graphic keyboard bindings. Move camera. Right arrow, left arrow. Rotate map. Left. Rotate map right. E. That's stupid. Okay, whatever. I don't remember what I was saying. Do you remember what I was talking about? Before we had all these technical difficulties and lost all of our audience? We'll put a junior ride in over here. Somewhere. Let's put the junior ride right here. This might not have been such a great idea. For an exit. There we go. Yeah, we were talking all about simulation games, and people were saying the ones they played, and then we were rudely interrupted. Well, hopefully it's not as buffering as bad. But we did lose everybody, which sucks. What can you do? What can you do? Well, we have the bucking bronco ride. We don't need another one of those. Let's put a rotavator. I don't know what a rotavator is, but we're putting it right here. And let's also turn on this little children's ride. So far, no buffer at all. That's fantastic to hear. If you guys watched the video that I posted earlier today, I'd like to know what you thought. If you thought it was interesting or not. If you haven't watched it, you should. Well, that's my opinion, at least. Oh, we need some Western hats. We'll put it right up here near the front. So as people come in, they're like, oh yeah, I definitely need a cowboy hat to wear as I'm walking around. There definitely needs to be some toilets somewhere too. Well, let's put the toilets out in the middle of nowhere. Put them over here. Let's check our finances and see if we are making any money. All right, so we've spent a great deal of money on ride construction so far. So we are in the red. We've now repaid our loan. The Star Wars video, it was fascinating. Oh, I'm glad you thought so. I first noticed that similarity between the two scenes a long time ago, really. I don't even remember when. But I was watching The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I was like, that scene happened. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. I was like, man, that's very similar to when Han Solo shoots Greedo in the canteen. And so it seemed to me that it was inspired by it. And then when all these changes happened, or at least when people started talking about the changes a lot on the internet, I thought, he kind of changed things and ruined it, made it worse. But it's okay. We forgive him. What are we supposed to be accomplishing? Monthly ride income $300, minimum length of 2 coasters 1,000 feet. So we need to build another roller coaster. I guess we'll do it over here. I don't know why. I wish I could like drag it over or something, but we just got to push this down as it moves. What up, Timote? Are you excited for any of the new Star Wars projects? To be honest, not really. I don't think Rosaria Dawson is that great of an actress, so her playing in a show and leading a show is not that appealing to me. I thought she did okay in the limited role in just one episode of a show of the. This might not be such a great place to put this, but So that doesn't, and I don't, has there been any other ones that are announced? I'm not the most expert when it comes to following these things. Okay, we need to change this real quick. Yes, Reduxed. What other projects have been announced? I did watch the trailer for the Loki show recently, but I don't care about that at all either. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm not fun. That's probably the case. They announced like 10? Holy cow. Well, I guess I have not been paying attention. Maybe I did see something about it. Or maybe I'm just really, really dumb. But again, I don't know. I've never been a huge Star Wars fan. So for me, it's just not a... What's the excitement level of this? How do we find that out? Down here? We don't know yet. Let's test it out. Obi-Wan and Rogue Squadron look the best to you. I'll have to look at these. See about these. Oh, we got stuck up at the top. We got to fix it. So it got stuck right here. We don't build up enough speed to get over this hump. All right. That means we've got to fix it back here. Construction mode. Click on that. Delete that. All right, let's see this now. Who's playing Obi-Wan? Is it Ewan McGregor? At least? I mean, I say that at least, but I'd prefer they just not make it at all. I'd like some, like, just totally separate from that timeline. Nothing to do with the rise and fall of that empire. Oh, we got stuck up there again? You gotta be kidding me. Just look at that. So close this time to getting over it. We'll get it fixed. Yeah, Ewan McGregor. I guess I don't know. He's not a terrible actor or anything. I wish that they do something a little bit more unique, right? The Mandalorian is cool because we have these characters that are, that are in the other Star Wars properties. But All right, good. The excitement is at least a 3. That's good. However, they're not the central focus of it. I always think for some, not always, but for some things, it seems like it's more interesting to just have the mystery of something, you know, like and I don't think it doesn't do anything to me, for me, I should say. This is a terrible layout. I don't know what I'm doing. It was probably a mistake to build this over here. But again, I'm not a big Star Wars fan, so it's not really for me, is it? If we think about it. Why can't someone come up with something new instead of constantly messing with pre-existing stories? Well, you know, it has to do with the fact that they want to make money off it, which I don't blame them. They paid a ton of money for that. And you know, I think they're entitled to try to make as much money as they can from it. But for me, I'm not interested in I'm just not interested in it. I don't know what to say about it. Okay, what am I doing wrong? Why do I not have a queue for this? I've suddenly forgot how to play this game. There we go. No, you're kidding me. Is that true, just saying? Hayden Christensen is returning to play Darth Vader? I'm looking this up. Sure enough. Crazy. Okay. I'm just... We know how he got there. We know how it ends with him. And to me, that just seems like retreading the same ground. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not meant for this day and age in the day where like everything has to be just this huge event, or it has to be this huge property. And if it's not, then it's a failure. But I can honestly say that doesn't excite me at all. Again, I'm a curmudgeon, I guess. I don't like the new Star Trek. I don't like most of the new Star Wars stuff. I've tried a couple of times. This is going to make me seem like a jerk, I guess, but I have tried a couple of times to watch the Clone Wars TV show, which a lot of people like, and it was just not, it never grabbed me. So this stuff really isn't for me. If we're being honest, it's not meant for me. It's not my cup of tea, I guess. I'll give it a try. I'll look at it. But to me, something that would be interesting would be, let's set something completely removed from this in the Old Republic era of Star Wars and just tell a completely different story where we don't have any of these references. We don't have any of the characters even alive that might appear. Build something completely new. But everything is set in and around this same period of, 30 years? Let's say, no, 50 years, something like that. I guess at this point it's like, it's more than that. It's like 60 years, not even 100 years timetable. And that's where everything is set. We have from the time of the Qui-Gon Jinn finding Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine to the end of Rise of Skywalker's 80 years maybe? Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but not that long. And so you have the same themes, like explore something different. Like you have this huge world, and all they do is, in my opinion, is throw out these scraps of nostalgia to people, right? It's just nostalgia baiting. Like like a fishing sense, right? Like you're putting little bits of nostalgia out for people so that they nibble. And it's like, you already have the name Star Wars. It already has recognition. You can put Jedis in there. Wouldn't it would be more interesting to me to have some completely new Jedi set back during the time of the Jedi Order and its strong point, and it being this huge, having these new characters, having a huge grand story that's completely new and different. But instead you give me Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it's not really the Obi-Wan Kenobi I like, because it's not Alec Guinness, right? It's not this old guy. And I personally think the timetable of Star Wars is messed up as it is, because you go from the end of Revenge of the Sith to the original Star Wars movie, and that's like less than 20 years in between those. And I just don't think they gave the characters enough. I think they should have been older. I think that Anakin should have been, in Revenge of the Sith, I think he should have been like 40 years old. I think he should have been an old guy. And then I don't know. It's just stupid. It's just boring to me. Arlene says, what they are doing is what my grandpa called whipping a tired horse. Yeah, it's exploiting it rather than using it. Doesn't mean that these won't be good, okay? I'm not saying that they won't be good, or that I can definitively say that they're going to be bad or anything. I have no idea. There's no way to know till these things actually come out. But there should be a question of, oh man, we didn't reach the minimum length of 1,000 feet. Let's go ahead and shut this down. And we'll try to make it longer somehow. Right. One of the things I think that is holding them back is the sense that they have to capitalize on what they've purchased. They have to capitalize. They are doing a Disney version of the Old Republic. Okay. Again, they spent billions of dollars on this. They're not just going to give up. They're going to try to make something out of this. And they have to, right? They have to. They have to make money on it because they spent so much. But to me, I guess maybe it's just part of getting older. Like, I'm not interested in it. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon, which is certainly possible. Like I said. If you watch any of the new ones and that is doubtful, you'll have to try to see it separate from Star Wars. See, I don't know. I think I'm in a fortunate position because I don't... For a lot of people, Star Wars is this huge part of their childhood, right? It is this thing that they liked watching with their family, or that... That's not going to work. You know, they watched as a kid, and that isn't what happened for me. It wasn't something I watched as a kid. You know, at least not really, really young. And so I'm not just going to be interested in it just because it's Star Wars. It has to be good. Like, I know people, and this isn't say that any of you are like this, but I know people that like it just because it's Star Wars, right? They like something. Let's see, with a young Yoda. You're joking. You're kidding me. That's a joke. How did I miss all of this? Because I don't care. Let's see. Star Wars. I mean, I might as well believe you. You've told me no lies as of yet. See, they can't even... They can't... oh well. Oh well. It is what it is, so to speak. Here, let's go on this roller coaster while I complain about Star Wars. I guess for me, I have the benefit of, like I said, of not being nostalgic for Star Wars. I enjoy the original movies as films, and that's basically as far as it goes. I've played, you know, Star Wars: The Old Republic video games, and I've I've played some of the other games, but I haven't read any of the novels. I have a couple that I've meant to read. The Admiral Thrawn trilogy, Heir to an Empire stuff. But I haven't actually ever gotten around to reading them. I don't care too much about the expanded universe or the big world of Star Wars. It just doesn't, it's never grabbed me like that. And so for me, I would want to see something new because, yeah, I like these characters, but it's time to move on. You know, the actors are all dead. And do you just continue to tell, like, eventually they have to move on and develop other things because you can't just tell stories all set around this time frame forever. But why not just start now? Why not just do something off the wall crazy like 10,000 years after the fall of the Second Empire? No one is alive. They're all dead. Baby Yoda's dead. Everybody's dead. I'm anti-Warzy, probably. They changed the timeline to attach Yoda's name to help sell it. There's no need. The name Star Wars sells it already. Okay? As long as it's good, people will watch it. How many normies, right? How many people that weren't Star Wars fans, that weren't real big Star Wars fans, knew what a Mandalorian was before the show? But the show was good, and so it got popular. It doesn't need, of course they put Baby Yoda in it, which I will continue to call him Baby Yoda because that's what he is. Whatever his name actually is, it doesn't matter. He's designed to pull on the nostalgia heartstrings, right? Like, he's designed to be thought of as a Baby Yoda. It doesn't mean the story's not good or the show isn't good. I don't know, man. I'm just an old curmudgeon. That's all that's to be said of it. I kind of messed up the theming here by not having these dirt paths, but I don't care. We still don't have maybe I have to build an entirely new coaster, or that's not 1,000 feet. That's fine. We'll build one over here. Yeah, Star Wars. What can you say? I'm not like, I'm more upset if I'm upset at all. I'm upset by how I think they're missing out on something, right? Like, we're missing out on something that could be really great and new and different. Like, I think a lot of times people think of Star Wars as a genre, right? Like, the Star Wars movies are a genre. They have to be these high action adventure films, and there has to be some sort of, but The Mandalorian has proved that to be different because it is much smaller in scale, at least right now. I think it's going to blow up to be something big, but each individual episode is very much in the vein of an old Western show. And to me, it'd be interesting to follow like a group of smugglers, right? It doesn't have to be about a big grand war, but like, what about a group of, the smugglers type or traders who are, going around and taking goods from one planet to another, and they're exploring. They're going to these different planets and they're having adventures, a la something like a Star Trek. But maybe that's not what people want to watch, I guess. None of these roller coasters we have here none of them are wooden ones yet. And I would have put it like they don't fit with the theming of the theme park. At least the mine train did. Oh, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Who cares? Just like Star Wars, I'll give up. Oh, let's see. Arlene says, I'm not anti-Star Wars, but I really like the original series and really don't like the newer ones. I will stick to my Star Trek reruns. Yeah. When I actually liked The Force Awakens when it first came out, right? In hindsight, I think it's diminished by what came after. But when it first came out, I was kind of excited. I thought, okay, you're sort of setting the stage in a very similar vein to the original one. That's fine. Well, how are you going to change that? What are you going to do to make it different than what came before? That's a small banked over curb. That's not going to work. It's going to be the most boring roller coaster ever. And of course they spoiled it, the whole thing, by having it be absolute garbage in how they started to change things. But they could have been something that was a lot better. At that point, I thought, all right, I'm on board. You know, J.J. Abrams usually has at least okay stories. And then they handed it off to Rian Johnson. And silly me, I assumed that they had a plan. And we now know that was silly to think that they had a plan. Of course, they didn't have a plan. That would be ridiculous to have a plan for your huge franchise. Instead, you just let people. We don't have enough funds. Okay, we're gonna have to wait until we have more funds to finish this roller coaster. But that'll give us more time to talk. When I look at a piece of media, right, like. I try not to be a fan of something. It's an interesting word, and it's an interesting way to explain something that, like, we really enjoy this thing. I really enjoy this. But being a fanatic for something, because that's what it comes from. It's like I don't want to be a fanatic of some sort of media property. It can be all right to enjoy something, but once I become a fan of it, well, then for a lot of people, that means that they're going to like everything that comes out, or they're going to take it overly seriously, and for some people, they're going to attack the people that make it on Twitter, or they're going to love everything that comes out or hate everything that comes out, or they're going to get really upset instead of just moving on. And I granted, we are talking about it, but so maybe I'm just a hypocrite. But like when a new Star Trek property comes out, right? I try to watch it Not Discovery and Picard. I just gave up. But when Nemesis came out, or the new rebooted movies came out, I watched them and I tried to give them a fair shake for what they were. And in a review I wrote on my website, FlyFoxProductions.com, for the second movie that was Into Darkness, I wrote that it should be called Space Adventure Film. Space adventure film. It wasn't Star Trek, but it was a solid space adventure film. And if I was just looking at it like that, well, then it was okay. But when if I was just a Star Trek fan, right, I would have to watch everything and criticize it or praise it or something, right? But I don't want to be defined by the fact that I like Star Trek The Next Generation and the original series and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise. That these shows, I enjoy watching them as television programs, right? Because like I'm not clamoring for a new Columbo show to be made, right? Even though I really like it and enjoy Columbo and love that show and watch it. I'm not clamoring for a new Columbo, right? Because Peter Falk is Columbo. I don't think there has to be another Columbo. I think there could be a new murder mystery show, right? Like Poirot. If you guys have ever watched the show Poirot, or you're familiar with some of the film adaptations of Agatha Christie's work, right? Like it's kind of fun to see her stories adapted. But at some point, they at least do different stories, right? Not the most famous one. Like we don't need yet another remake of Murder on the Orient Express. But of course it will happen. They will continue to make those. And with Star Wars, it seems like they're treating it... Here's what I think. This will be my final thing. Yes, Eric, I think Galaxy Quest is one of the best Star Trek movies. It is a Star Trek movie in the sense that it's a celebration of Star Trek, right? It's poking fun at the things that are poke funnable of Star Trek, but it's not doing it in any kind of malicious way. So that doesn't work. It's not merely a mockery, right? There is a sense in which it's celebrating it. So I would agree with that. That it's a Star Trek movie. I don't think it's the best Star Trek movie. But it's definitely up there. I would say it's probably just behind, maybe fourth, depending on how you rank them. I think Star Wars should be treated as a world in which to set stories. I think it's possible to tell a really good romance story in the world of Star Wars. Obviously, they're going to have action, they're going to have adventure in all of them. But like if it's primarily a romance, like you can do that kind of thing because it's a world. It's not just a genre. It's a world in which you can set all of these different stories. And they've yet to really do that. George Lucas failed to tell a good romantic story when he made the prequels. But it seems to me that if all right, that's getting boring. If they hope to keep this thing going, eventually they have to make some new iconic characters, right? Because you can't just keep this is another story where now we're seeing young young Qui-Gon Jinn. And it's like, was anybody wanting to see young Qui-Gon Jinn? Were people clamoring to see young Qui-Gon Jinn? Yeah, what about a Star Wars horror story? Absolutely, right? I don't think it needs to be something R-rated in order to still sell stuff, but you think about how interesting that would be. You know, putting a characters in a situation where they are forced to have something scary going on, like a scary monster in a world, and they're not able to get off this planet, and they're trying to get to their ship, and they're getting picked off one by one. That would be kind of interesting. Absolutely, it could work. And in doing so, maybe you actually, I don't know, make some iconic characters. All right, we don't have enough money. So we've got to simulate some more time here and then wait. I think that's a great idea. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And what if, think about some of the classic war films that are about individual battles in this war. And so far we've seen Rogue One, which was okay, but it was more of like an espionage spy, like, Guns of Navarone type thing. But what about something that's actually about a single battle, or a show that's about these land battles that happened in the war? And it's like, yeah, that's staying in the same area, but you're at least telling a different kind of a story. I think they could do so much more. But that's one of the problems with the way that the modern film industry has gone is we didn't want an entertainer. Is that everything has to be based off of these big franchises, right? If it's not something that has a popular name, very little chance that it's gonna get the light of see the light of day. It has to either be an adaptation of something, or a remake, or a sequel, or a set in the same world as. And while I enjoy those things, what will be the next Star Wars? Right? Are we done with new big franchises creating these iconic things? Is it over? Does everything have to be, we've got to adapt this because it's a comic book, or it's a book, or it's a video game? Where are the new franchises? What are they going to be? You have to go back to the late 90s to see anything that became huge that wasn't an adaptation of something. Did you see? Holy crap, I didn't even know that could happen. That's hilarious. Do you see it shoot off the edge there? Yeah, Halloween style Star Wars movie. It could definitely happen. Why not? Something like The Matrix. Maybe somebody else can think of another something that became a franchise, which I don't think The Matrix ever deserved to become a franchise. I really don't. Talk about something that was diminished by the sequels. At one point, Quentin Tarantino he made a list of his favorite films that had been made since he started making films. And he didn't put them in any particular order. But when he talked about The Matrix, he said, if it hadn't been for the sequels, this would have been my definitive number one. He said, but then the sequels came along and it made it not as good. And I think he was right about that. But like, what else has there been? What else has there been since then that has been not something based off of a pre-existing franchise or comics or a book or anything like that? Not that those things are totally, that people can't do those things. But I wonder, not enough cash still. I wonder when we will see somebody take a chance on a big property. And we really, in a lot of ways, we have to point the finger at the success of Star Wars because of this situation. More people need toilets. Because Star Wars was so successful, it made the idea of a media franchise. Still not enough money. Okay. A media franchise possible, right? Like, well, if we get a big enough hit, we can make a ton of money based off of this property. We can license toys and books and comics, but if we think about it, there really hasn't been anything that defining since then. There have been a few Matrix video games, none that were all that great. There's probably been some books or things or comics that have been done, but nothing to the scale of Star Wars. And so you have this huge looming idea that if we can just knock it out of the park. And so since they don't feel like they can, maybe they don't feel like they can actually create the next Star Wars. So like, well, we have Star Wars now, so let's just milk it for all it's worth. Finally. Who knows? Who knows? At one point, I hoped that there would be a lot of freedom that would come about because of the internet, right? That it would be lucrative enough that it would make sense for people to start. Oh, so we did the first level. We unlocked that. Now we got to try to beat the other challenges for this one. But I hoped that it would allow for people to make their own franchises and see these things come to life. But it hasn't happened, so. Let's see. Here we go. Arlene says, fried green tomatoes was not part of a series of franchise, but it still shows regularly up in Knoxville. Some movies are so good that they stand the test of time. Yeah, there's those cult classics. Galaxy Quest is one of those, even though it's inspired by Star Trek. I mean, it's not officially a Star Trek film, and so it wasn't a huge hit when it came out, but it's had a lasting life. Just saying, says Nasser mentioned a project about the aftermath of our world when the sun goes dark. It had elements of space, lots of potential. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, people have really cool ideas. And if it's like maybe the only place where you can do new things and try new stuff is in the world of animation, right? Because you can sort of control it, but then that costs a ton of money. So we do see new franchises there, like a Despicable Me or something like that. But when it comes to traditional films, you have smaller budget films, big action franchises, and then they throw, every once in a while, they try to have a big action franchise with, they say, okay, well, let's try to have a big action film, but it just doesn't work as often. Like, where are the Terminators? Where are the Alien franchises? Where are the Predators? it may be that there's so many options today of things to watch and things to do that there won't be those culture defining franchises like there once was. But I'd like to think that it's still possible. Maybe the only way that it can happen is through adaptions, right? Like it becomes a popular comic book and then we get The Walking Dead, or it becomes popular as a book, as a novel, and then we get an adaptation. Maybe that's the only way it can happen nowadays. And that's fine. But what happens once you sell the rights to that? Like, let's say an adaptation of some fantasy novel or fantasy world becomes really popular, right? And let's say it's something smaller, like where there's not as many stories set in that world, but it becomes popular. And now these people, they want more set in that world. It's like the Harry Potter franchise, right? Once you're finished with the books, where do you go with that? You want more of this. It's like, what rights did you buy? Did you buy the rights to make your own works in that world? Did you, like, are you able to get the author to create new works in it, like they do with J.K. Rowling? I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just an old curmudgeon, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. However, I think we are at a point where there's so many options, but yet so little feels like it's actually worth. Man, we got entrepreneur. Oh, because we repaid the loan and our total ride income was high. We just need another coaster and then we'll get this. What was I saying? It seems to me that we live in a time when there's so many options of things to do, and yet it feels like there's so little that I actually want to watch. A few years ago when Stranger Things hit, it felt like, man, there's this huge opportunity for there to be just so many cool things that everybody is watching and talking about. And yet since then, I don't know how many there have been. And it feels like every year it gets like there isn't that huge hit that everyone's talking about, that everyone loves. All right, we gotta wait till we have some more money before we build another coaster. Let's see, Arlene says, I remember a couple of many years ago, there were more Ewoks and Stormtroopers at Halloween than monsters and princesses. Even parents had on Darth helmets. Yeah. Oh, Nigel, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Jeff says, funny, almost all of my stuff is set in my own literary world. I think that can be done. It's sort of like Brandon Sanderson. Everything is set in, most of his work is set in this world called the Cosmere. And so all of his stories are set in the same universe, and they sort of get linked together that way. And that's kind of a cool concept. Nigel says, holy cow, I feel the same way. So many options, but nothing appeals to me anymore. Yeah, maybe it's just we're old and where it's not meant for us anymore. But more and more it's like, well, I'm going to go back and watch the old movies from the 40s and 50s or the 30s or something. I'm going to go back and watch the movies on Turner Classic Movies and see things I haven't seen. Because if we watched a new movie for, every day for the rest of our lives. And that might be a little excessive, but or television program that we hadn't seen before. We'd be at it for a long time. Like we wouldn't get through everything. We would have a long time and a lot of stuff to watch. And I think there's something to be said about like just, hey, let me go back and watch some of the things I've never seen. And if I don't like them, well, that's fine too. But exploring some of the other stuff. Jeff Potts says, I tried reading Brandon Sanderson, great writer. The stories didn't interest me. Yeah, I think I think that his books are really great, but there is something that is lacking. And I've tried to put my finger on it. My brother reads them. My wife reads them. And I've tried to talk it through and figure out what it is that I think is lacking from them. But overall, I come down on this side if I enjoy them. But I think for me, it's more the characters usually than the plots and the stories. Arlene says, waiting for more money is the story of everyday life. That is very true. It's just like real life. Oh, the little guy woke up from his nap. He always has trouble waking up from his nap. He goes to sleep from his naps really easily, but he wakes up pretty hard. And putting him to bed at the end of the night is really hard, but he usually wakes up from being asleep in the morning really well, and he's excited for the day. So, I hope that at some point, I really hope they don't. The Amazon Lord of the Rings show, I just am so worried about that. And then there's like the Wheel of Time Amazon show, and there's people trying to adapt Brandon Sanderson works and the Kingkiller Chronicles, and all of these fantasy franchises are trying to get off the ground. Nobody really capitalized on the success of the Lord of the Rings movies as this big fantasy thing. And then now we're in this point where Game of Thrones was popular, and people have tried to capitalize on that by doing something else. There was the Terry Brooks Shannara Chronicles, which was it was horrendous. It was this MTV show for teenage girls, and it was really poor. But they've sold these properties, but nobody's really gotten them out. Like The Witcher is the only thing, and that was, I mean, I don't remember anybody really getting really super excited for The Witcher. But there's a lot of potential out there for something. And I think, you think about the world we live in now, right? When our grandparents were children, they maybe had a couple of books on their shelf, and there wasn't any way to watch movies other than at the theater. They could listen to the radio, and then later they could watch television. But there was this sense of doing, right? Going out and doing things. And now we have all of this amusement at our fingertips, like this video game or YouTube. And that's not to say we can't do these things, but we're so inundated with new content that I wonder if sometimes we just need to take a step back and revisit some of the old stuff that we enjoyed. How did the root beer stand just broke down? How is that even possible? Let's do a hyper coaster. Not sure what's hyper about it. Probably not the best thing to say on as you're trying to grow a YouTube channel is to tell people to stop watching new content. But I can't help it. Holy cow. Look at that thing. We're definitely putting that in. But we have to make this completely over. Yeah, I don't know. The future of media is not so bright for me at the moment. It's more like, hey, please don't make anything super terrible. I'd really like for you not to ruin this thing that I like, as opposed to some, like, there's nothing that I'm excited about, you know? It's more like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be terrible. How terrible is it going to be? Did we make it high enough? Let's see. Nope, not even close. Wow. Holy moly. That thing is ridiculous. But we are putting it in. Let's see. Arlene says, if it's anything like real life, it's a hard burst of compressed air forced through lines to clear them so the syrup portion of the soda can flow smoothly. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, that's got to be high enough, right? There we go. That's got to be enough. Nope. This is going to be the most ridiculous roller coaster ever in the history of the universe. All right, at least we got that figure 8 loop done. This game's almost unplayable with this, whatever is happening where I can't move the map around very fast. It makes it like, yeah, it's tough to play it like that. Are there anything that you guys are excited for that you've heard are going to be adapted, or movies that are coming out, or anything? Is there anything exciting in the world? Not enough cash. We'll just wait. Arlene says, tonight when my daughter calls and asks me about my day, I'm going to tell her I watched a guy build a roller coaster and wait for money. Yeah, a lot of waiting for money. Oh, man. I think what I enjoy, it's like I enjoy making stuff a lot. It's why I wanted to work in film production and ended up working in video production. And I've worked on nonfiction stuff primarily, but some fictional stuff, sketches and things. And I've written stuff. But really I just like to entertain and talk with people, and for me that takes the form of YouTube at this point. And really the world is becoming heavily dominated by live performance stuff. Or online streaming and everything being in the house. So maybe the future is just long-form television shows like The Mandalorian or any of these things streaming straight to our televisions. And there won't be any big new movie franchises, but because there's a lot of money in streaming, there is chances that will be taken, right? Like Stranger Things, I guess. I didn't want Stranger Things to be a franchise, but it became one. Let's go on this roller coaster ride. We're going to slow this down to normal speed. All right, so we're going up to the top of it. Here we go, down the roller coaster. There we go. All right, so let's see what we didn't see the beginning of the ride. Let's see. Matt C says there's nothing some big jerk is excited for. He's discovering Matt C. That bit is discovering he's a perpetual optimist with his content stuff. Even streaming has to be optimistic. Live unscripted conversations is a deeply human thing for people to gravitate to. Yeah, I think there's opportunity out there for people. I know my friend, somebody I used to work with, is trying to get to start a streaming platform, and to hopefully get backing for that and try to make good content. Hopefully that works. And there'll be chances, but I think that there's a lot of classic literature and stuff that I think could be adapted again today if it was already adapted, or should be adapted, and there should be literary adaptions and things, and there should be original movies that aren't an adaptation or based on a true story or something. But oops, we still don't have the minimum length even with that monstrosity. But I guess I'm not really too optimistic about what I've heard is coming in the near future. Some big jerk says, yeah, I don't think the future is any one big thing. People have become too specialized in their interest that it's hard for any one big thing to hit across all demographics. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be, I could be wrong, right? I don't think there's ever going to be another Stephen King or another Harry Potter. There are books that sell a ton, right? But it's a lot of copies. But there's nothing that's a cultural phenomenon of those two things. when it comes to literary stuff. It just seems like there is, right, like I said, everything's too specialized, and we're able to find exactly what we want when we want it, and so it becomes this thing where not everything's going to appeal to everybody. And one of the last things where I think pretty much everybody watched it and enjoyed it was the first season of Stranger Things, and then they've just sort of ruined anything going forward with that. Each subsequent season has been worse. How many roller coaster feet do we have? I can't believe we have to put in another roller coaster. Ugh. I guess we can build it over here behind this one. Do a little one. This is painful how long this takes to move this screen around, and I don't remember it being like this. Oh, apparently it worked. Apparently that was long enough. Awesome. Okay, so we beat this level. Okay, let's return to the screen. So we've now gotten Tycoon on both these first two levels. So that's fun. Let me put my Santa Claus. Never mind. I was going to put my Santa Claus hat back on and turn on the camera, but I cannot. I am not capable. Well, I'm capable, but it's not prudent. Now, see, one thing I'm realizing about myself, when I see something I'm excited about, I ask myself, yeah, but is this a small niche thing where no one else will really see it? Why bother? Let's pull that up and then I want to get out of this game. Hopefully that saves. I don't think I just saved it. Oh, well. Some major says, no longer I like sci-fi or I like rom-com. So I like X specific subgenre by author Y. That's funny. I think that as the culture, as we move on to this time frame of everything being streamed over the internet, there being so many options, right? Before you had a few channels on television, right? Broadcast television. And then you had films in the movie theater, and it was dominated by that, right? So whatever was on broadcast television was popular. And then you had syndication, first run syndication, like Star Trek: The Next Generation. And then you had cable around that same time, right? But everyone was still pretty much watching the thing. As Matt C says, I say that because we grew up in an era where cultural phenomena were the thing. Yeah. And as options expand, as there are more things to turn to, more options, more streaming services, more original content for streaming services. People pick and choose based on what they like. It's not everybody has cable, and so when something becomes big, they just switch over to that channel. It's not like when there was broadcast television, there was only a few options, and so everyone watched the last episode of Cheers, or everyone watched whatever the big shows were back then. Everyone was watching American Idol, right? That wasn't even that long ago. That was in the last 20 years. American Idol was huge. It was this huge ratings juggernaut, and people knew who got voted off, and a lot of people were watching that show. Even something like CSI was huge. Pretty much the number one show at the time, scripted at least. And now you get to this point where it's like my nerdy friends, I know that they will have watched a certain show, or they're more likely to have watched it. But then, like my parents, they haven't seen The Mandalorian, right? They saw Stranger Things, but they don't have Disney Plus. They're not going to get Disney Plus. There's no reason for them to get it. And I think that's going to become more and more of the situation over time. Matt C says, there are a couple of shows I really enjoy and I keep forgetting to finish them because I'm the only one I know watching it. Just a really weird reality shift. Oh, can you give an example or two? Like there are things that I know friends of mine or people recommend and we watch a lot of it and we really enjoy it. And then over time we sort of, all right, I'm kind of tired of this. And we go back to it much later on. But there's just so much content and so much stuff. Like I look over at my shelf here. I have a shelf that's mostly, a couple of shelves that are mostly television content, right? And it's got like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and Firefly. So that's like my Joss Whedon section. And there's Smallville and Columbo and shows that I really like and I want to go through and watch. But there's all this new content coming out and it's much easier to just turn on the streaming service and watch something and put it in the background. Whereas it's more of a production to say, what episode of Buffy on the DVD are we looking for? But I prefer the DVD, having the DVD content, because I don't always want to have to pay for a streaming service if I want to cancel it. And it's like, well, do I really want to watch Buffy that much that I'm going to pay for this streaming service that only has Buffy the Vampire Slayer on it, or only has Smallville on it, or only has The Office on it? So if you don't know, The Office is going to Peacock starting January 1st. So no more The Office on Netflix. And I don't know if that's the free version of Peacock or if it's the pay version of Peacock, because you can watch some content on Peacock for free with commercials, but that would be horrible. There's no way I would want to watch The Office with commercials.
That'd be very weird.
It would be very strange for me.
It wasn't meant for commercials.
What do you mean? Yeah, it was on NBC.
Never mind. Ignore what I just said.
But it's been so long since I never watched it on TV. I mean, I watched maybe 2 episodes on TV, and then everything else was me streaming it on Netflix that I watched it. Matt C says, Man in the High Castle, a couple of BBC cop drama shows. Okay, so Man in the High Castle, I know that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law watched that. And we have not. I watched the first episode of it a while ago when it first came out. And I was like, oh, this is something probably I should watch with Lady Vixen. And so, but there's so much content. There's so much stuff that it's just not possible to watch everything. It's like I really want to go back and watch Longmire.
We started that.
And we started Longmire. We watched at least a season and a half, maybe 2 seasons of that show. But there's like 5 seasons. And so it's like, man, there's so much stuff. Yeah, The Office with commercials. What are we, savages? Yeah, Matt, see, I agree. It's ridiculous. It would seem so weird to have commercials. But Peacock did a funny thing. They sent an email to people that have a Peacock account. Peacock? I don't know what that is. Peacock account. And I do. So I got this email that it's sent as a memo from Dunder Mifflin Incorporated, and David Wallace wrote it, and it's basically like as if it really was a documentary show, and it's now going to be they're partnering with the Peacock streaming service, and it's really interesting and funny. It's a good way to do it, but I don't think I'll watch it on Peacock. We need to hurry up and finish we were going to do one last watch through on Netflix, but we're only at season 6. So I don't know if it's going to happen. But we need to get on that and try to finish that up. We did buy it on DVD when it got announced that it was going to be leaving Netflix, just because I was like, I don't want to have to pay for another streaming service just to watch The Office. That seems silly to me. But let's see, what else do I have that I think is worthy of owning on DVD. That's a television show. Of course, Star Trek television right there. The Office, Scrubs, my favorite sitcom of all time, Scrubs. Psych, that's one of Lady Vixen's that she had from before we were married. Also have Monk, that's a great show. And Burn Notice and White Collar, those are all Lady Vixen's there. Then we also have Doctor Who, the new Doctor Who stuff up till Matt Smith. What's up, Reese? Welcome. We're just talking about nothing at this point. We finished playing a game, and now we are done with it. Scrubs is pretty goat. Somehow got memory hold. Yeah, Scrubs was always one of those shows that was really popular with critics and with the people that actually watched it, but it never became the big juggernaut. So it was on around the same, on NBC when The Office was on, and The Office eventually became this, huge cultural phenomenon. Not the first couple seasons, but after that it got really big and everybody was watching it. But Scrubs, it just soldiered on for a really long time, and I absolutely loved it. You're terrible, Reese. Go away. I can't believe you hate Scrubs. Scrubs is so accurate. So I used to work in the medical field, and it's so accurate to the situation and the world of that it is definitely funny for people that worked in the medical industry. But it is hilarious. It's a great show. And you're completely wrong about hate. I mean, I can't believe you hate it. I guess you can't be wrong about hating. I guess you can be wrong about hating something. What am I saying? But a television show, I guess I shouldn't be too angry at you for not liking the same television shows as me. We also own a sitcom that is not that great, but it's one of those ones where I can put it on and not care, and every once in a while laugh. And so it is not great. Yeah, it is not great. And I'm almost ashamed for owning it in a sense, but it's The Big Bang Theory. And it's one of those ones where it's like so much of it is so cringe and it's not worth watching, but occasionally I want to watch something terrible and so I put that on. And then we own a couple of seasons of The Simpsons, but early Simpsons. And then we have Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the old BBC adaptation. Ray Bradbury's Theater, which is good. What else do we have over there? Jeeves and Wooster with House and Stephen Fry. Blackadder. I think that's about it. Yeah. Head writer for Scrubs used to be a practicing medical doctor, which is why it works, in your opinion. Big Bang Theory is trash. Reese says he has no respect for nurses or anyone in medicine. That's funny. Your pee can turn purple, I assume. I just don't have much hope for anything new. Like, new sitcoms. Like, I don't know any sitcom that is new to television in the last few years. Like, what has there been? Has there been anything that's been really popular? Like, once The Big Bang Theory ended, that was pretty much the last hugely popular sitcom, right? Or am I wrong about that? I'm probably wrong. None that are really popular. And I can't. Was there been any sitcoms that are streamed that have been big hits? Yeah, man, Reese has been kind of salty lately. What you got, an apple, buddy? Is it tasty? Yeah. Like, children don't care. Like, as adults, we're like, oh, I don't want to get this juice from this fresh fruit over everything, or like have it just all over my hands and face. But a child, they don't care. They're like, what? Who cares? Doesn't affect me. I can still do whatever I want. Some big jerk says the last comedy they cared about was Seinfeld. Yeah, Seinfeld was a huge sitcom. Lady Vixen is not really a big fan of Seinfeld. She's never watched too much of it. I watched it some. But, I mean, I guess The Simpsons is still on air, but hasn't been worth watching it for a long time. Well, yeah, he wants to mess with the Wacom, but it's not for drawing right now. We're not in a drawing program, buddy. We're just using it as a monitor. The Cintiq. Maybe sitcoms are going extinct. Maybe. Like, we had, I guess, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's sort of funny from when we were actually watching it. And I guess there's also The Good Place, which is funny. So I guess there are a few that are still going on that are good. But I don't know. Maybe there will be. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there will be another Harry Potter, and it'll be just the hugest thing ever, and everyone will be reading the same book, and they'll be, But the problem is, not the problem. The reality is that things are so different because so many people are going to be reading it digitally or listening to an audiobook right away, and they're not going to be showing up at Barnes & Noble to get it the night it releases. They're going to have pre-ordered it on Amazon, and it's going to come in the mail that day. There'll be some people, but it won't be the same, right? There won't be these big pallets of books, and people are there, and they're so excited, and they're all dressed up, and it's it. It's over. Reese doesn't stream. Not even when you pee? Reese says, I have a friend who actually named his daughter Elliot. He was a huge Scrubs fan. That's funny. That's interesting. You don't often meet people who are named Elliot that are women. Is it even possible to have a sitcom and not be offensive in this SJW woke time? Yes. Yes, but it will be aligned with those principles. So it will sacrifice being funny, being a comedy, for the appealing to that demographic. Yeah, don't cross the streams, Reese. You could have total, what is it? Plutonic something or other. I don't know. What is the jibber jabber they say in that? That's probably offensive, saying jibber jabber. We're right at a cusp, I think, of maybe with people reacting and with people reacting to the censorship or the things they don't like about a Netflix or a YouTube. It's possible that there might be some room for people to branch out and start something new. But it will be a tough battle, I think. It'll be a tough battle. And it's possible that there might be a time when things are getting made by other companies that are more independent and are able to do they're able to make good content outside of the Hollywood system. But you really have to, it can't rely on Kevin Sorbo and Dean Cain being in all of your content. You have to find people who are willing to be in this type of content that aren't, no offense to those guys, but sort of old, in a sense, washed up, has-been actors from the 90s. Reese says, the thing I hated about Scrubs was how awful everyone was always. That's real life, man. People are awful. people are terrible. Yeah, they make they make a lot of stupid decisions in that show, but I think that's realistic to real life. Maybe that's not to escapism, but I think that for people that had similar work lives or work experiences, they sort of identified with these characters and the situations they found themselves in. And it was a show that was a sitcom that wasn't afraid to go sort of dramatic at times, where it had some pretty poignant moments, and I think people liked that. What's up, Roscoe? Welcome back to the Redux. I think that's what people liked about it. You know, with The Office, you don't have those moments as much where it goes really serious all of a sudden. Everything is pretty much played for laughs in that. There isn't really any moment that's really a huge dramatic moment. But in Scrubs, you have a lot of scenes and times when there were things that were, some sort of patient dying or something. And it was, in hindsight, JD was kind of a soy new male, but every episode had a moral message. But it also had characters that were not. It also had characters that were more traditionally masculine. So in the first season, he wasn't as it became sort of more of a stereotype with him as the show went on, where he became more, however we want to describe him, as soy new male, as you put it. But like in the first couple episodes, he plays basketball and stuff, and he seems to know about sports. And he seems to be more of a regular person. But like a lot of sitcoms, people got stereotyped. They got sort of, their characters became more exaggerated as time went on. All right, so I have been streaming for a long time. An hour and 40 minutes. We've had a lot of good discussions. Sorry for Roscoe if he just showed up again. But if you have not watched it, I did put out a new video today about Star Wars and its connection to Sergio Leone and a cinematic reference that I think exists in Star Wars too, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you haven't watched that yet, go ahead and watch that. And yeah, Flanderization. Exactly. Jeez, Roscoe, LOL. I remember that episode. Anyways, if you have not watched that, I would recommend it to you. And if you like that sort of content, let me know. And I'll be trying to do things like that. Quick analysis of maybe a scene or a couple of scenes from movies, and trying to do different things, branching out from just doing, looking at a comic book and just looking through the pages and talking about that. JD was the worst, a living face punch. You're so harsh, Reese, so harsh. Yes, so thank you everybody for watching and sticking it out with me here. If you are wanting to support me, I think I have, I was on the other stream and I didn't do it on this one. Oh well. In the description of this video, there should be a link to Patreon. And that is an option if you want to. No obligation. Like and subscribe and share. Don't share the live streams as much as you share those